So this is my presentation on looking after yourself as a performer. So to begin, just looking at what we're going to be covering throughout the presentation. So we're going to be looking at the diet for, and this is based around, most of my presentation is based around an actor slash performer in general really. So it's going to be looking at like a diet, health and safety laws, injury prevention, mental health, physical fitness, and then I'm going to be also talking about how my career kind of slots into all that. So to start off, the importance of diet and nutrition, sorry. So just an open question, why is eating healthily important for a performer? Ignore the error there.
To give you stamina is one thing.
Yeah. Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Energy, strength, stamina. Yeah.
So to start off, so eating healthily for a performer. So looking at eating fresh fruit because it's a good source of getting natural sugars, and it's also obviously a good source of energy, etc., and also vitamins, natural vitamins, etc. And then moving on to vitamin A, it's good for strengthening the muscle membranes, and it's good for the muscles in general. And it's another good source of getting energy. And you can actually get this from yellow vegetables such as squash or sweet potato, and from fruits such as mango. And then you get chicken and fish, which is a good source of protein, which is also really good for energy, etc. And it's also something that fills you up. So when you're going on stage, it's good to kind of have a full stomach, and because it's a good source of energy, as I was saying. And then room temperature water. The reason why I've underlined room temperature is because room temperature is you should be drinking that before going on stage, or kind of in general really, if you're kind of looking after your voice, which is kind of what this kind of covers everything kind of, but it's mainly kind of focused on the voice. So room temperature water is good to drink because if you're drinking water that's too ice cold, then it's going to be restricting your vocal cords, and then also the same if the water's too hot. So drinking waters that is room temperature is going to make sure you're getting hydrated but not damaging your vocal cords at the same time. So moving on, so why do you think that's important?
To maintain the energy that you need.
With regards to all of that fruit and veg, that last
yeah,
slide.
like why do you think that's kind of, it's important to kind of keep that?
So you don't die.
That's a good answer.
So you can continue working.
Yeah, just really just so you can keep doing what you're doing and just
Top of your game.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to unhealthy eating for a performer. So dairy, put 2 exclamation marks by that because it's a big no-no. Obviously that's avoiding things like milk and cheese and butter, because these can obviously cause acid reflux, and which is damaging to the vocal cords because it can kind of burn them. And then caffeine, I know a lot of people think that obviously caffeine is a good source of energy, but obviously it's not natural energy as we were just looking at in the previous slide. But caffeine is, it also can cause acid reflux, and it dehydrates you in general really. Same with chocolate, it's got caffeine in it, it's got unnatural sugars in it, so really it's something that you should just completely avoid in general before going on stage, or if you're trying to kind of, maintain healthiness. But obviously chocolate's good every now and then because you don't like chocolate. But alcohol's kind of similar to caffeine. I know a lot of people like to think, I'm just about to go on stage, I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm going to have a drink to calm my nerves. But alcohol is definitely something you shouldn't have because it dehydrates you. It's got the same kind of badness that the rest of them have, but also it's usually mixed. If you're having like a spirit, for example, it's usually mixed with something like a juice or a soft drink, which have unnatural sugars in them anyway. So it's just unhealthy in general, really. So moving on, how kind of social media has impacted this. Now I did a little bit of research on this guy called Gaz Oakley. If you kind of, his name's there, and he's on platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube as well. So he's got a lot of information about kind of recipes and stuff. But I just kind of wanted to say that social media has kind of impacted this nowadays, because people have access to recipes now for healthy foods, and you know, it's all kind of there for you to research yourself, like what you should be eating, what you shouldn't be eating. And as I also said, YouTube is handy for this, because you know, you're looking at healthy eating, and you're seeing how other performers and what their kind of diets are really. But so moving on to physical fitness. Just be talking about some appropriate exercises for performers. So, and this can be either before you're going on a show, or just to kind of keep fit in general, really. So warm-ups before performances, obviously. You can be doing stuff like stretching. So stretches, because it's good flexibility. It can release any tension in your muscles before going on stage, which is obviously an actor's kind of worst kind of flaw, really. And also yoga as well, that kind of goes into that as well. But also, so warm-ups as well, to get your blood pumping, because blood is linked with the breath, and obviously breath is really important for on stage, for, you know, emotion and you know, movement and voice in general. Breath is something good. So doing jogging, you can either kind of jog around in a space if you're before a performance, or you know, just jogging in your local area, stuff like that, just kind of to get that, maintain that kind of daily kind of exercise to, you know, to really help control like breathing, etc. So, and then moving on to kind of yoga as well, it's also, as I said, important for the tension, and it can also help with your muscle strength and also posture as well, which is also a massive important factor on stage, really having good posture for characters, etc. But moving on. So fitness advice through social media. Now, as I kind of spoke about previously with how you have access to recipes and stuff, you can also have access to fitness exercises on social media, etc. But here I've just put the kind of negative and positive aspects of why you should use social media. So, you know, it can be really motivational seeing that, you know, you've got other performers and they're telling you, oh, I do, you know, I eat this and I do these exercises daily. So it can be really motivational because you're seeing, you know, oh, okay, they're doing that, so I'm going to do that, and hopefully, you know, I can, you know, get in the right shape to pursue performing. But then it also has its negative aspect, because with it being motivational, it could also be really demotivational, and it can be really intimidating also seeing people, you know, posting their, you know, bodies on social media and saying, oh, I do this, I do that, you know, I eat this, you shouldn't eat this. It can be really quite daunting, really, because, and it's really quite self-doubting that you're kind of seeing, oh, I don't do any of that, so, you know, why should I think that I should get into the industry, etc. Now moving on to injury prevention. So, common injuries within the industry, and these are just kind of three massively kind of throughout the whole of the performing arts industry, really, that can kind of occur. So ankle sprains is a massive one, because you can easily you know, have an ankle sprain during a dance performance, maybe in the theatre. So it'll happen to a lot of dance performers and any other kind of more physical movement style pieces of drama. Hearing loss, it's actually really interesting. I found out some statistics about 50% of musicians have been known to have experienced some type of hearing difficulty. And obviously hearing loss can occur from, and it's more relevant to musical theatre performers. But then you can also kind of develop this type of injury from, you know, being in a nightclub, or from, you know, being with, you know, the live band, etc. Just anywhere that's really kind of having that loud pumping music, really. And then also lacking nutrition, as I was kind of previously saying in a few slides, and we looked at what can happen if you're not eating healthily. Obviously, if you're on stage and you haven't eaten a healthy, balanced kind of diet, or you haven't had enough water and stuff, you could quite easily pass out, or you could not just be fit in general to bring your best kind of game to the performance, really. So that's why it's obviously, again, really important to make sure you're stacked up on your nutrition. But this slide's quite interesting because, and you can feel free to kind of have a read of the rights of the policies whilst I kind of talk more about them. But I've done this based on a professional dancer because at the time I couldn't really find anything based around acting, but a lot of these also kind of can relate to an actor in general. But it's just kind of, so for every kind of dance performer has the right to be taught safely by a professional dance qualified teacher, and they also have to make sure they're having up-to-date education on the health and safety and injury prevention in general, really. So, and then they also have the right to be working in a safe space to work in, because obviously if the room's not really up to scratch with, there could be nails in the floor or something, anything like that, and they could easily, get you done for not having an appropriate space. But then I also kind of looked at the policies and how that can kind of be affected. But the policies, they're developed kind of in-house when, kind of theatre whilst kind of doing rehearsals, and it can apply to kind of all types of dancers. So as I was saying, a lot of these policies can kind of also kind of cover a actor as well, such as the equal opportunities, the child protection, health and safety in general. And then also the disability one, which is actually really interesting. It's quite good that we have policies which can also kind of cover that field in general. So moving on to safety and equality. So this, it might be hard to see. I was going to have printouts for that. These are just statistics on the gender disputes kind of in the industry based on the National Theatre. It's between the years 2011 and 2015, but it's just a few examples of the statistics compared to from male and female. So obviously, it's quite interesting that assistant directors is 50-50, which is quite good. Cast is cast meaning kind of actors or performers. 36% females over 64% males. So obviously you can see that there's a massive kind of difference there. So fight directors, actually, there's 56% females working in that compared to 44% of males. So that's quite interesting, actually, for the National Theatre. And then designers, obviously, there's more kind of females working in that industry compared to males, which I think is kind of a bit stereotypical, really, how, a lot of these are kind of covering different kind of fields, really. But obviously the biggest one, composers, there's only 11% of females working as a composer compared to, the 89% that's males. But if you can see it, I know it's probably hard to see, but feel free to kind of have a look at any of the other statistics. Obviously there's another one here, music directors, 7% are female, and the 93% is males. So really, obviously as you can see, because the red is female and grey is male, obviously you can see that there's a massive kind of difference between the job roles in general, really. But moving on, we're going to be talking about the Me Too movement and kind of how that's kind of helping you stay safe in the industry. So obviously the Me Too movement, it was created by Tarana Burke in 2006, and originally to help survivors of sexual violence. Obviously originally opened up to women of colour, and the survivors of sexual violence, and they wanted to build up a community of advocates driven by the survivors themselves. So it's kind of made up of the community themselves, and everyone's kind of putting in their own input to kind of make this, this cause kind of really rise up. That because of the use of the hashtag #MeToo movement, the hashtag #MeToo hashtag on, trending on social media, it's been able to really kind of come up, and more people have been able to really discuss about any issues that they've had, and the #MeToo movement has been able to help with that. But then the #MeToo movement have also been known to focus on gender equality within the industry as well. Moving on again. So mental health and well-being. How it can have effects in the industry. This is actually what I found kind of most interesting for me. So I did a lot of research on kind of getting into character, and how mental health in general can really have a kind of a toll on getting in and out of character. So I kind of looked at kind of case studies from my research, and a lot of kind of drama teachers were saying that they found that when putting on a show, they found certain kids who were, really nice kind of guys, they found that they were having behavior problems from playing certain characters, and it just kind of shows like the kind of amount of effort and the amount of emotional energy an actor can put into kind of getting in and out of character, and how it can have a really negative toll on you, because it can, really kind of stick with you, and you can really kind of go through those emotions because you're switching them on and off. So then that kind of leads into a kind of emotional memory, which we all kind of hopefully know is a kind of Stanislavski kind of method, technique. And emotional memory is when you're using your own kind of experience and things to kind of bring up an emotion for a character. And this can also be really damaging, because you're bringing up, things that you've struggled with in the past, and it can really kind of have a toll on you because you've been bringing it up again. So then it kind of leads me to talk on to Heath Ledger, who is on kind of massive, has struggled with a massive effect from this. So Heath Ledger, he was born April 4th, 1979 in Australia. Woohoo. And he's obviously best well known for being the Joker in the Dark Knight franchise, and he was also in films such as Brokeback Mountain. But he struggled with mental health himself, and a lot of people, he was actually found, people say that he died because of an accidental overdose actually, but a lot of people then kind of said, oh, it was because he was playing the Joker, and the people reckoned that kind of pushed his mental health over the edge, because he did a lot of method acting and emotional memory to get into that role, such as, I think he had one of like the producers of the movie like send him a rat or something, like a dead rat in his room, just to kind of really get in that kind of messed up kind of set of mind. I think he would do a lot of things on set as well. This was just really psychotic, really, just get into that role, because he was a massive method actor in general, really. But yeah, so they reckon that just kind of pushed him over the edge, really. But that's just, Heath Ledger is just kind of a massive example of why that, how mental health can really take a toll on you, and how it can have its good points and its bad points, really. But that leads me to talk on the arts minds, and this is a way of getting help, especially when you are struggling with mental health. And it's mainly kind of set up for people within the industry, obviously, it's the arts minds, and it's kind of was originally set up by a collaboration between Equity, the Stage, and Spotlight, and then BAPAM. So the four entertainment organisations came together to support the many talents that may struggle with mental health. And I've kind of got some statistics here which I found on their Arts Minds website. and they did a survey where they took out 5,000 people within the group, and these were the statistics that came back. So 81% of people working within theatre struggled with mental health at some point. Same goes for television, 57.69%, and then film at 54.81%. And then these kind of smaller ones down here kind of covers kind of rest of the industry. So 21.7% working in the music industry, 12.38 in dance, 11.36 in a kind of variety, and then 8.1% in modelling. So obviously the biggest kind of one there is theatre, which is quite unusual really, because you wouldn't kind of expect it to be within theatre, but to be honest, you can't really tell really where it kind of come from, because it's just unusual really. But moving on to my references, way, and then that is my presentation. So does anybody have any kind of follow-up questions or pointers or